Hello, I'm Izzy with Endo360 Help, and today I'm here with Oliver Ditullio, who's a QiGong teacher, and he will explain a little bit more to us about this ancient form of exercise. Hello, Oliver. Thank you for being with us today. Can you tell me a little bit more about the theory behind QiGong and what does it actually do?
So, QiGong is a traditional holistic practice, kind of like yoga. They are both very old. They are both based on experience, sensations in the body as feedback, and then practicing specific movements to improve overall health. I emphasize the term holistic very heavily because whether it is Qigong or yoga, it comes from a philosophy of always following nature's way of functioning and taking things slowly and being always very aware of the practice. Qigong itself started, well, very long time ago, thousands of years ago. They are most well known once they are practiced in temples. So Shaolin Temple came up with their own form of the 8 brocade, Wudang Temple came with their own form. It was initially designed to keep the body healthy so that the mind and the spirit can grow. So it also incorporates not just physical exercise, but an understanding of our mental well-being and the energetic body, the energetic flow that happens through and outside our body.
That's the qi, right?
That's qi, exactly. So in yoga, what we would call prana, in qigong we call qi. And initially, when you practice qigong, if done properly and you synchronize your breath with your movements, you will feel that your body warms up and you sweat quite easily. This is a very good sign of detox. But it's also a very good sign that the body is healthy, that can maintain its own body temperature. Later stages, you will start to realize that this heat, or sometimes a tingling, this sensation will be focused in specific parts of your body, either into your dantian. This is the biggest energy center where we store energy in our gut. More precisely, 3 fingers under the navel. And at much later stages, you will even learn to control it, so you can even move this energy around. And so when you see those masters breaking bricks with their hands, they are theoretically moving this energy towards their palms to strengthen it. But then other applications can come from it, which is also more mystical application of such as healing only through exchange of energy, so touch is not even needed.
That's quite fascinating.
Yeah, it is. And it definitely follows any form of traditional Chinese medicine, such as acupuncture, tuina, which is a form of massage. They will all follow the same route, which is the basics of the 5 elements, the understanding of yin and yang and balance. And that's why it is, I would say, in our more modern lifestyle, to go back to these traditional practices, much more interesting solution, because we are always doing things so fast. We are always trying to numb certain symptoms that in the end we don't really practice something more natural. And if you practice something more natural, you just need a bit more patience, but it goes a long way for your health.
Because that Qigong it stems from China, just as the traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture does, right?
Yes, so exactly.
That's why. So how do you think, in the general sense of the theory and practice, could Qigong benefit women that have endometriosis?
So in the theory, as I've just mentioned about the dantian being this energy center that is, so I precisely mentioned where it is, but you can also say it's either the center of your pelvis, where it's the center of gravity of your body, or it can even be just generally your gut. And more and more people consider the gut being your second brain because there's such a complex neurological system there. So the this area, this pelvic area, also includes your sexual organs. And the sexual organs, whether it's male or females, is very strongly taken care of or thought of in these practices. It influences our hormone levels, etc. So it's always very tricky to work on your body and your mind when it comes to sexuality, etc. Now, when it comes to ailments that are specifically the uterus, because a lot of movements in Qigong will require you to open up this area, it is all about freeing any tension so that you allow energy to flow. So the theory is, the traditional theory is, energy flows in and out of you constantly, and you've got energy centers. So you don't only have the dantian and below, you have the middle dantian and close to your heart, you have the upper dantian in your brain, and they're very much related to the chakra system in yoga, so they're also parallel together. So these energy centers, in theory, will take in energy from your surrounding, process it into your body, and uses the energy to sustain your living cells, and then expel negative energy out. So however you wish to define good or negative energy is up to your own experience also, because it's a very tricky philosophy and debate. But they do kind of function like organs. Something comes in, something comes out. At that point, when we talk about endometriosis, we can think about it as a certain blockage because there is not enough flow to allow the blood to flow out.
That's right.
So in that case, any type of exercise that you do with Qigong, especially the ones that are in horse stance, for example, horse stance, your feet are apart, your knees are lightly bent, it forces your pelvis to sink down and the hip joints to open up. When you do any type of exercise in this position, you will experiment the rotation of your tailbone. You will try to feel freedom in those, in that part of the body. Simply physically doing those exercises puts you in a situation where the muscles will either get strength from the training, and strength is also needed. It's not just about flexibility. Or if there's too much strength, the lower you go, the more flexible the muscle will be. So the best part is Qigong postures, everything is done standing, and since the postures are not as extreme as in yoga, you can very easily adapt for any level. But the most important part is that you will feel both a strengthening and a gain of flexibility all around this pelvic area. As long as this area is physically soft, it's strong enough to support you, but soft enough to allow to avoid retaining tension, then the energies will flow naturally. And you may even think of it in a more practical sense. The flow of energy could also be parallel to the flow of blood or the flow of your lymphatic system. We know that we have lymph nodes here in in our hip joints. Any of these exercises, either the horse stance, or we'll be reviewing tapping. So there's a certain exercise where you tap the body to stimulate flow. We will tap a lot in these parts. It's all about that. It's all about the philosophy of avoiding blockages and freeing these blockages.
And that's exactly my second question, so we're coming to it quite smoothly here. With endometriosis, as you know, a lot of women experience that Qi stagnation or blood status, and then they develop cysts in their ovaries, or fibroids in their uterus, and all kinds of problems, lumps that are within that pelvic area. So what are the particular, other than the horse stance, is there any other poses or the names of the poses that you would particularly recommend to kind of push that energy into that area, and maybe just even move the energy around more so that you kind of feel the tingling of the energy going? Because I know from my own experience that before I was doing any kind of TCM or Qigong exercises, I had very cold hands, so the Qi, my TCM practitioner used to say that the Qi is not flowing very well, it's weak. Now I don't experience such cold hands anymore, the kind of cold stagnancy and whatnot. So what are the particular poses that you think would be the most beneficial for endometriosis patients?
So there are two I would personally separate it into two different categories that would greatly benefit endometriosis. Now, in general, all exercises in QiGong will benefit your body. So that's a very broad and theoretical way of explaining it. In a more specific way, the two categories I would put it under is, one is the physical, when we just mentioned it, the physical freeing and opening of the pelvic area. So horse stance, there is one called the dragon tail, which is you're moving your tailbone around like drawing a circle, but you're not moving the hips. You see, you're moving the tailbone, so eventually you'll be rotating your hip joints in a different way. You'll be using your knees and your thighs. So these sort of movements are not unilateral in a way. It's not just doing one movement, it's multiple circular motions at the same time to soften it. The other part would be an overall sort of energetic flow too. So there are certain exercises, because it's related to blood too, you want things with deep breathing. So there's something called the hand swings, where the breath is very specific, and you swing the arms in a way that it starts to get your lymphatic system pumping. We've practiced it together. That too, and I mentioned specifically the lymphatic system because it's known for that, but everything is connected within your body. So if you get something going on one side, then the cardiovascular system will be just as healthy, etc. So these sort of hand swings, any sort of extension where you'll push the palms up and your feet feels grounded on the floor, this will pull on your meridian lines, and these will increase the flow of energy.
We also have the palms going to the sides as well. Yeah,
yes.
That's also one of the extensions.
Exactly. So pushing the palms out. This one I specifically called fingers pointing at sky. You will feel the extension. And it's not a hard stretch on your muscles, right? There is no blockage. You're pushing out, but you want the elbows to remain soft, because we want that concept of a mix of strength and softness together. So it's that balance that's a bit tough to grasp, but once you do grasp it, then you understand 90-80% of the practice of QiGong. Now, the thing is, when you do these movements, you are pulling on, you are stretching something much deeper than the muscles. So call it the tendons, the ligaments, it could be the meridian lines, which are energy centers, it can be the fascia too. It's most probably all of them at the same time. When you do that, there is a boost in your energy, and that's probably how you felt the heat, how you feel a tingling. When you're done with these exercises, you feel more energized rather than you've used energy and you're a bit tired. So that boost of energy, when you practice these movements in specific ways, that's the energetic part, that second category that I put it in, where it's just the overall health of your body and how the overall health can sustain a flow and a constant cleansing of the part we wish to heal. So for endometriosis specifically, the uterus.
So how often would you say one has to practice QiGong within a week? And then in general, when would you expect the benefits to kind of manifest themselves after, let's say, regular practice?
I always suggest once a day.
Once a day. And for what length of a session?
So that's a tricky part too. It's it's not to sound mystical all the time, but it is really all about balance and to follow nature's slow progress. So the personal advice I give to most of my students is, it doesn't matter if it lasts 10-15 minutes, but do it every day, because
the consistency is
it's
important.
the consistency that's the most important. Even on days if you don't feel like it, you're forgetting, you're really tired, still try a minimum of 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Get the habit going, because QiGong follows the old masters. Always use nature as their teacher. we come from nature, so the laws of nature applies to us. There is, it is very wrong to believe that we can be better than nature.
Exactly.
So following that philosophy, nature changes always in a very slow way. Whenever human beings try to make changes too fast, that's when we create a catastrophe. So focus on slow but sure steps towards your progress. Focus on doing it once a day, and QiGong specifically do it in the morning. Avoid doing it at nighttime or in the evening, because for many people, I would say majority of people, you build up so much energy that you might
have problems sleeping.
Have problems sleeping. You just won't feel like tired or anything like that. So the best, my favorite thing is when the sun rises, when the day starts, then eventually you 5-10 minutes. And the more you practice, the more you'll have fun doing it. You will feel like there is something more to be aware of the sensations in your body. It's not just I'm doing the exercise for my own good, even though I suffer doing the exercise. No. It's you learn to appreciate every moment of the exercise. That's why everything's done slowly. Now, more practical answer, because that's I would say, if you do it every day within 1 to 2 weeks, 2 weeks for sure you'll feel something. Better. You'll feel better for sure.
Because during the exercise you can already feel the chi for some, the energy flowing, but for the energy to actually make a positive change to the body, you say about 2 weeks or so.
When I mentioned the 2 weeks is to, without feeling energies, you will feel that your body has an overall boost of energy. You will just simply feel better. That would be all. To mention that 2 weeks is how long the energies need to heal your body, that one is too mystical for me. I wouldn't be able to.
And it probably depends on the individual and based on the severity of the disease.
And it's all about habits too.
Well, what about, because we talked a lot about how it can help women with endometriosis, but I think the more familiar kind of exercise from the East is yoga, and some people might have heard of Tai Chi. So my question is, how is QiGong different to those two exercise practices?
So yoga, I'll start with yoga because I've actually been teaching yoga longer than Tai Chi and QiGong, but I have been practicing Tai Chi and QiGong longer than yoga.
I'm a big practitioner of yoga, but I've never practiced Tai Chi, so very interesting to hear your opinion on that.
Yeah, so for me, yoga is a great way of rediscovering your body in a way that you get into postures where the stretching is a bit more extreme, to a point where
especially vinyasa.
Vinyasa. I practice Ashtanga for a while, and that's
Ashtanga as well.
It's quite tough. So for younger people to get into yoga is pretty fun because the body can sustain these sort of postures. The difficulty is you got to be careful of your progression, because you do have the risk of getting into a posture where you're not flexible enough and injure yourself. I have never heard of a person physically injuring themselves while practicing Tai Chi or QiGong, because they are done very slowly, and the postures are accessible to everyone. It's just the subtleties of how you practice the movements that makes a big difference. In yoga, if you don't know the subtleties of the practice, you still benefit greatly from the stretches and the muscle strengthening. Obviously, yoga has its subtleties in the practice that if you apply, you'll benefit even more in your energetic body through the chakras, and especially a mental well-being, because it helps you to calm everything down. So yoga is really this conditioning for the perfect, the search of the perfect state of mind, nirvana, bliss. QiGong, initially, from the legend that I heard, not verified, but I love the story. is initially started on cold winters when the fire was not strong enough to heat up people, and they thought moving around actually gives you a lot of energy and heat, and it evolved towards a physical exercise, and then it evolved towards feeling the warmth and the tingling and the energies as we discussed in the beginning. And then after they found out they could move this energy around, and I feel that it was really just some self-experimentation in the beginning, just like how yoga must have started too. You don't just get the ideas like that. But to make it very simple, from my experience, yoga is nice when you wish to discover your body, you wish to condition your body for some fun stuff, like trying to get stronger or more flexible, do headstands. There is for me personally, I feel a great sensation of being a child again, that I can bring my toes, I can touch my toes with my nose and things like that, and that elevates you too.
But it's not accessible to all women who suffer, for example, with endometriosis. I know that some can do yoga, some maybe can't, or not, at least, vinyasa or any strenuous poses. They might resort to yoga nidra, which is the meditation part, and that's it. So,
and you have yin yoga, and so the advantage is now you have so many different styles of yoga. But the best part is you don't have to limit yourself only to yoga. So then you can look on the other, and this is what you're doing, is researching on the other practices such as QiGong, Tai Chi. So when you practice QiGong, I feel that QiGong is closer to yoga when it comes to the body conditioning. The exercises are more symmetrical. The focus is more on releasing tension, strengthening the body, breath work, increasing body's energy. Whereas Tai Chi is really a fixed sequence that you learn, and technically the goal is for self-defense. The mental well-being is the result of the practice, but the goal really is there is a self-defense application to the movements behind them.
I have one last question. What do you think that there's any kind of reasons why someone should not practice Qigong? I mean, is it like there's certain health risks involved, especially if in case of endometriosis women, they take medication, or if some of them are going through, let's say, a Chinese medicine, they take herbs or acupuncture. Is there any problems to mix the two?
Yeah, very good question. Because it comes from a holistic background and the philosophy is all about balance and nature, there isn't much of a risk. It's actually quite safe for a few exceptions. In general, you want to be careful if you have high or low blood pressure, because in Qigong, the breath work combined with certain arm movements and leg stances will get the blood flowing a lot of it will flow. And I've had experiences where students would faint or or feel very dizzy. So if you feel very dizzy, well, it's very simple. Just stop, sit down for a while, pay attention to your breath. Usually it's because certain people, they don't know how to control their breath properly, and they will hold their breath, and then you accumulate that energy. Other people, especially those who have high or low blood pressure, there are certain exercises where you swing the head down and then lift the head back up. Obviously, these sort of movements, once you lift the head up and the blood rush goes through, you're going to feel dizzy and to a point where it's going to be you're going to lose your balance and things like that. So you got to be careful with that. If you join a Qigong class or even a yoga class, always make sure to warn the teacher that you have high or low blood pressure. I do have also an advice for women who are on their menstruals. So women who are on their menstruals, I never refuse a woman who's on the menstruals to come to my class. I feel that there is no strong risk, but the advice I do give is to tone down the movements and to tone down especially the breathing, not to inhale too much, because we want to make sure we exhale to evacuate the tension, but we don't want to inhale too much because that one will accumulate more energy, more oxygen, and it's related to the blood. So you got to be careful.
That's very useful advice. Thank you so much. And the last question: how do you say thank you after the qigong practice? Is it the thank you sign?
That one is. It's not a. So it's not a thank you sign.
It's not a thing. It's not like namaste.
I would link it to how do they call it? Filial piety. So filial piety is a concept that was anchored by Confucius, which is respect your elders. And so the way I teach it in class is the right hand we close into a fist. So the fist is strong, you punch, I was about to say people, you punch things with it, not too much aggression.
The yang energy.
So that's the yang energy. So that is known as light, the male, the warmth. And then the open palm is yin energy. So this one's the female, the night, cold, resting. And so it's a soft, as if you can grab a punch with the palm. And when you put both yang and yin together, so this forms the yin and yang sign. And I usually say we bow in respect for the elders who brought us this art.
Thank you so much for talking to us today. And thank you for watching Endo 360 Help. Bye.